Good evening all. Happy Socialist Sunday. And welcome to the Sunday live stream on my left eye. I'm your host Lefty. Hope you're all doing well. What a week it's been. Yes, much to celebrate this week. Fortunately, we've had a lot of good news. So thanks for joining us on stream. We've got a busy chat already. That's great to see. Do hit thumbs up as you join us, people. Peasants Revolt, Davinia Robbins, Hype Them, Moisha, great to see you on stream. Great to chat to you briefly earlier on another platform. Nina Sadie's with us as well. Can see others joining. Floor Snake as well. JK, the revolution grows. The shouty bloke making a subtle entrance as always. Very nice to see you all. And idiosyncrasy. The test card is imprinted in your mind. I do love that intro, I really do. Great work from the Agitator. Agitate for Change, that's the handle you want. Check him out on Blue Sky, does great stuff. And yes, I've personally spoken to... No, I said the real name then. Personally spoken to the Agitator regarding usage of their content. And they're all good with it, so that's awesome. And they're really nice as well. He, they, I think preferred pronouns. So awesome stuff. And, well, what another great way to start the stream. We were just on the precipice of passing 200 members on 195, and straight away we've gotten over that mark. MIDI Doctors, many thanks. Let's please big up MIDI Doctors in the chat, everybody. That's an awesome way to start. I'll just update the total. So passing 200 for the first time as well, I should add. Incredible. That's brilliant. Oh, amazing. And we're so close to the goal of 250 now. Wow. What can we say? Thanks, MIDI Doctors. Well, if only we'd prepared something in case this happened live on stream. Phil?
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
Awesome. Incredible.
Have you had enough, Nazi? Or do you want some more?
Excellent, and thank you very much to everybody, all 200 now. I've put 250 instead of 200. Not quite. There we go, 200 is passed. Amazing, great to see that being appreciated in chat as well. Awesome stuff, everybody. Let's give a shout out to all the members now. You'll just see 195 on the list, but it will be my or somebody's esteemed pleasure to add this to the list. The roster of marvellous members that you can see before you. Incredible. Have we had another... We've had another idiosyncrasy. Thank you very much. Awesome. 201 now. Any advance on 201? This is amazing. Great way to kick off a Socialist Sunday stream. Other ways that you can help to support the channel and the stream, simply by hitting thumbs up. As I said on this stream, if you are watching on mobile or tablet, I'd encourage you to please open a new tab, go to our channel, open one of our more recent videos. Please do hit thumbs up there as well, but you might see the new hype feature, which is a new thing on YouTube. You get allocated points I won't go into the intricacies of the point system. Essentially, you have enough to hype a few videos per week, which helps to support them on the algorithm, so please do consider using them to support My Left Eye amongst your other favourite channels. Use all 3 on My Left Eye videos by all means, but please do consider using 1 or 2 from your quota. You get a new batch every week, so please do consider that. Super chats are also open if you're watching live, as well as super stickers. There's super thanks as well if you're watching back later on, and there's a buy me a coffee page in the description of any content on the channel if you don't have the means to support via YouTube. Thank you very much, everybody. Really can't tell you how much we appreciate that support. And in what, 18 months, just over 18 months or so, going on 2 years I think now actually, of course. We're great that we've built such a community and got to, what is it, 5,700 subs now, as well as 201 marvellous members. Incredible. Thank you, everybody. We can dig that.
Can you dig it?
Yes, we certainly can.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
Edward Sexby joining us on chat, getting quite lively already. That's what we like to see. We do have a lot to get through and share with you though, so thanks for joining us. This is the place to be. We'll get straight into the lounge. Keith's Fondue Lounge. A great week for the usual attendees of the Fondue Lounge again. Okay, thanks to Harvey. Harvey Ranger and the Supersonics for the background music there. We're just going to dip into the lounge. A bit of fondue now. I've got audio only. What's going on here? Phil? Bear with people. Let's see if we can get this up, so to speak. Here we go. That's three bufferings in chats. Well, it's back here. We've got it back on our studio. I'll plow on regardless. What's coming up? Cooper did a couple of rounds on the mainstream media today to try and defend the original prescription of pal action, which of course was deemed illegal. This was her making. She's passed the torch on to Shabana Mahmood. That's one of the great things that happened this week, of course. Monumental decision from the Royal Courts of Justice. Also hot seats. Gorton and Denton remains a hot seat. In just, what is it now, 11 days, people will go to the polls in the constituency. Hopefully we're going to be catching up with some canvassers and party members before the by-election. But a bit of news to keep up with as well. Zach Polanski's also had an interview with Trevor Phillips on Sky today, so we're going to be checking some of that out. Farage also made a recent appearance to try and defend Jim Ratcliffe's comments, the Man United owner, the dickhead, that he made earlier in the week regarding immigration. So we're going to take a look at that video as Farage gets debunked in real time, which is always good to see. Jeremy Corbyn has also reacted to that ruling at the Royal Courts of Justice this week. He's had a few other bits and pieces to say. We're going to be keeping up with the latest from Palestine as well, of course, as always, on the channel, including today's news that shamefully the British Museum is trying to historically erase the existence of Palestine, and under duress from Israeli lobbies is removing references to Palestine from all of its exhibits. Quite shameful. We're going to be seeing what's happening with that one. Whilst we're on the subject of Palestine, we've got some excellent testimonies to go into as well. One coming from an Irish Member of Parliament, and we're going to take a look at a bit of a compilation of some of the great Mehdi Hassan's appearances. For some reason, Alan Dershowitz has been around social media a lot recently, so a compilation clip of Mehdi Hassan taking on Zionist ghoul Alan Dershowitz. Plus a few other bits and pieces. As for the people on your screen here, of course, Scandalson there is going to be coming up again. Because even though Yvette Cooper, who we're going to be taking a look at first, has been on the news rounds this week, she's been somewhat reserved. She hasn't really made mention of the fact that a certain somebody in this scene was best man at her wedding, for example. Yeah. Scandalson himself. Did you know that one? I wonder if it's just last name terms where Cooper's concerned as well, like it is with Keith. It's all an act, of course. There's still pally on the phone behind closed doors, I'm certain. In fact, it's rumoured that they have fondue parties together. Alright, people. We better get started. Ogham the Bold, nice to see you. And chat. Dylan Mayer as well joining us. We'll be back for a second portion of Fondue later, but that's all for now. Oh yes, plenty of humble pie for Yvette Cooper this week. And it's an absolute pleasure to serve it, an extra large portion. Antifa Cog, thanks a lot for joining us, thanks for the comment. Back with Keith later. So yes, Harvey, Ranger and the Supersonics. Back with us now. Sunday livestream background, jazz band, quartet. And I believe during proceedings there we had another membership coming in. Let's take a look. Yes, Scribby. Awesome. So that's 202. 202. That's what we like to see. Awesome. Okay, let's commence clips, articles and things. Let's get on with it.
On with it. Yes, get on with it. Get on with it.
Let's start with Cooper on Sky News. God, she is awful. What a wanker. Sorry, just thinking out loud. But yeah, that sums up what the courts thought about the legislation. You'd think that, I'm sure that she's probably not aware that the Channel 4 documentary from Dispatches that came out this week doesn't exist either. that, of course, pertains to all of the bullshit reasons, the false associations with violent groups that they put into the Prescription Act. And let's see how she tries to defend it. Tries to, being the operative words.
High Court in London this week ruled that your decision to prescribe Palestine action was disproportionate. What led you to take that decision other than the spray painting of some military aircraft? This was criminal damage, but it wasn't terrorism, was it?
No, it wasn't. I mean, wasn't at the time. It was all hyperbole. They tried to make spurious links between Iran and it was just so barrel-scrapingly poor in the first place. And again, just as a reminder, trying to lump them in with all of those far-right groups, the psycho, wear-mad, murder, crazy bastards, whatever the fuck they're called. Just basically neo-Nazis. And you try... this was put to her. There's another clip from Kussenberg that I'm going to show you as well in a moment. Because, of course, yours truly being part of Defend Our Juries, who openly protest against Hal Action's prescription. The kind of people that you're talking about, that you're trying to label as terrorists, just is beyond ridiculous. We have one in chat. We've got Moish on Toast here, fellow DOJ supporter, and an arrestee as well.
Well, I followed the clear advice and recommendations, going through a serious process that the Home Office goes through, involving different agencies and police advice as well, which was very clear about the recommendation for prescription of this group.
Oh, I don't think so. No, I don't think so. It was all nudge, nudge, wink, wink. That's what the Channel 4 Dispatches documentary reveals, just to reaffirm what many of us already knew in the first place. Do recommend putting that one on your watch list, by the way. Let's just play a bit more.
The court has also concluded that this is not a normal protest group, that it has found that...
Crap. It's a crap sandwich. This is just, yeah. How else can you put it?
This group has committed acts of terrorism, that this group is not simply in line with democratic...
It's property damage. It's property damage. That's it. Or what? It sort of humiliated how you could do a protest at a military base with basically just some wire cutters and a few litres of fucking paint and an e-scooter. Yeah. That's what happened. And it was an embarrassment for Yvette Cooper, and she overreacted with this draconian legislation now. 2,000 people have been arrested protesting this, including many dear friends of mine, and I include Moish on Toast in that as well. Just how dare you? How dare she try and make these assumptions, these false associations? We all know, it's as clear as day, that it is just Yvette Cooper, former Home Secretary, now Shabana Mahmood, operating on behalf of the Israeli lobbies. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. There will always be and it was the same with the Maccabi Tel Aviv thing, with the police commissioner in that case. It's, you know, again, knee-jerk reactions have them, you know, try and destroy their career, try and destroy their reputation, try and destroy their lives. This is what these evil bastards want. This is what these evil bastards pay to get politicians to do to anybody who dare step up to them. And it's the same with this. It's the same with this.
Values and has promoted violence.
Well, forgive me.
Well. The Home Secretary.
Even Trevor Phillips knows. Even Sky News, Trevor Phillips can make those distinctions between property damage and terrorism. Do you think that Mike, who was arrested at least 4 times a few of those in my presence as well. Mike, who's blind, who was there with his guide dog, and other friends of mine, Sue Parfitt, who we're going to see in a moment as well, because Kussenberg presented Cooper with a pre-prepared video that Sue Pollard had made with a message for Cooper. We're going to be seeing that shortly. I could name you scores of people who I know who don't even nearly fit into the categorisation that Yvette Cooper wants you to believe that they are. It's an insult to our intelligence as much as it is an infliction on our protest rights, I guess.
The Home Secretary, let me just finish the point. The Home Secretary has appealed on the grounds on which the government lost. But look, in the end, the decision for a Home Secretary is what you always have to do, is take really seriously advice that you're given. And if you're given advice about potential risks of violence and risks to public safety, you have to take that advice very seriously.
Yeah,
this
but
is
forgive me,
very different
the High Court...
from issues around protest on...
Yeah, peasants' revolt, it's like living in the Twilight Zone. It really is. Any kind of fictional analogy that you could make, Orwell, whatever it might be, it applies 100%. We're not being dramatic. It's almost as though these people take those sort of things as a playbook, pretty much. As well as a fierce blend of real history repeating as well. Davini, why wasn't Just Stop Oil labelled a terrorist organisation? Well, they tried, actually. They did try. But they knew that it would have turned out the same way as it has here for Yvette Cooper. This would have been under the Tories, mostly, of course. And I can tell you that, obviously, as someone who just... let's be careful with the language. I'm in JSO, basically. We say supporters, not members, because we don't like have you don't get like a membership card or anything. But yes, I'm very much involved with Just Stop Oil. That's pretty much why it didn't happen. Even Johnson, briefly Truss, and then Sunak didn't think that'd stick, that it'd wash, and they were right. But Yvette Cooper's stupid enough, and so's Shabana Mahmood.
Palestine, people still have a legal right, and
you did
always
say,
had.
you
Sorry,
said at the time, you said...
So I...
A lot of people in Defend Our Juries are also... There's a lot of cross-pollination, as it were, between Just Stop Oil and Extinction Rebellion, as well as other groups. Pal Action, of course.
Was given significant evidence and advice around risks of violence and risks to public safety, and that is what you take seriously.
They got it wrong then, didn't they?
Home Secretary, and if you ignore advice that you are given about risks to public safety.
Yeah, Dylan, I do get pretty sweary where things like this are concerned, because she's talking about me. She's talking about people who I know. She's talking about people who I've even been on action with and been arrested with, and shared a police carrier with in the past. People who have a great amount of respect for, people who I'm prepared to be arrested with, let's put it that way. And just for the record, yes, I've had all of my cases and trials, etc. Just to be very clear, I've been arrested and tried for all of my crimes. I've had acquittals, I've had convictions, and I've had cases thrown out as well. Bit of a mixed bag, depending on what it was, because I've done quite a bit of shit, which I'm very proud of, obviously, no regrets. So I'm not going to take this from Cooper, these piss poor excuses. Let's see how she did with Kussenberg. Just a little snippet from Kussenberg. I've got another one coming up later on as well. If you want a more in-depth analysis from a left-wing point of view of the Laura Kussenberg show, I'd highly recommend No Justice at No Justice MTG, and Kevin Logan at Ploppy111, I believe it is, who are often in conversation together as they go through Laura Kussenberg. So shout out to No Justice and Kevin Logan. Do a great job in taking you through the whole thing. Well, let's just see this bit, because I mentioned the she's going to dump a pre-prepared clip by Sue Parfitt, who's a retired Anglican vicar. She's in her 80s. They say 83 in the clip. I believe she's actually older than that. The first time... the first time I became aware of Sue Parfit, right in front of my very eyes, on Westminster Bridge, 2022, in October. It would have been Sunday, October the 2nd, if you want to get precise, I believe. Sue was arrested on the bridge after a sit-down block with JSO and XR, and this was after a huge march to kick off the action phase. And there she was, as we were sort of stood at the side by the barrier. Many people got arrested that day, but the sight of Sue, I've got a clip somewhere. I didn't pre-prepare it for this, but so that was the first time I laid eyes on Sue, and obviously she's been arrested several times since. I've been there to film it on a few occasions as well. Let's see how Cooper reacts.
High Court in London this week
It's
ruled
not that. It's not that one, Phil. It's the other one. Not that one. Yes.
One of those who's been arrested, 83-year-old Church of England priest Sue Parfit, she's been charged under the Terrorism Act for holding a placard up supporting Palestine action. We spoke to her yesterday, and she
Sue's
has a
a
message
legend.
for you.
I do not consider myself a...
This woman's a legend. She also carried out the action at the Magna Carta, the JSO action. Do you remember that one? They smashed the glass. There were three senior ladies who smashed the glass on the Magna Carta as well. This is a direct message from Sue.
terrorist. It is quite ludicrous to consider that I'm an Anglican priest and I have worked for peace and justice all my life. This is not what terrorism is. We know what terrorism is. It is people like Al-Qaeda and people who have done terrible acts against communities.
You got this wrong, didn't you?
She fucking well did.
The Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, has looked at this and been very clear she disagrees with it.
Whoa. It strains me a little to have to agree with Laura Kussenberg, but it's so easy a point to make. Let's just watch that again.
Against communities.
You got this wrong, didn't you?
You got this wrong, didn't you? There are two utterances of the word you in the question you. Yes, it was her. She brought in the legislation when she was Home Secretary. Yes, Shabana Mahmood carries the torch now. She doesn't even try and acknowledge the question. She doesn't even try and admit any level of failure whatsoever, and thinks overconfidently that Shabana Mahmood's going to carry some weight. But no, they're not going to have the last laugh on this one. But it's you, not Shabana Mahmood. She's asking you about the terrible mistake that you made, and she doesn't even want to retroactively address that. She just wants to ignore it. What a coward. What an absolute ghoul.
Well, the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, has looked at this and been very clear she disagrees with the judgment and is appealing against it. So, look, I'm not going to cut across that, but let me just say this, that the advice...
Not going to cut across it. No, you don't want to talk about how you took away people's protest rights and just tried to appeal the Israeli lobbies. Very cheap as well. They sell themselves out very cheap, this lot.
That I had, and I suspect the advice that Shabana will have had as well, was very clearly about the risks around violence, around violent threats and around public safety as well. And
the ones that you can't name because they're not there. There is no threat to the public. There is no violence. It's in the name. It's in the fucking name. Non-violent direct action group. Anybody who does this sort of thing has to be trained in non-violence. And I know this for a fact that nobody gets to go on an action unless they've had the appropriate training in non-violence. non-violence.
And I think when you're faced with that advice as a Home Secretary, you have to take it.
Yeah, Efra Wells, you beat me to that one. In this case is just about the only thing in which Shabana Mahmood is appealing, or comes into that category as well. You know, just a quick mention of the hypocrisy as well, where she's concerned. Years ago, she went out on pro-Palestine marches, and now here she is, having the careerist carrot dangled in front of her, and she's abandoned the principles, and now sustains the prescription of a protest group that calls out the genocide and the war crimes and the mass murder that's happening in Gaza. Would you believe it? Yes, you would, because this is Keir Starmer's Labour Party that we're talking about.
It immensely seriously. We had strong advice around prescription and those powers being needed in order to make sure that we could deal with violent threats, and also this was obviously passed through Parliament as well.
Rubbish, absolute rubbish, complete toilet there from former Home Secretary Yvette Cooper.
That was the biggest load of crap I've ever heard.
Yeah, I could go on about Cooper for hours, but for the sake of brevity, let's move on to something more positive now. Let's hear from someone who actually knows what the prescription of pal action was all about. Current Your Party Member of Parliament for Islington North, Jeremy Corbyn.
I think we should recognise that the court has taken what, in my view, is a sensible decision and asked that the ban be lifted. That surely is a good thing to do.
We need to acknowledge, though, that it was found unlawful on two grounds, one of which was disproportionality, which referred to the fact that the group's activities did not have the persistence or the scale as warranting a terror prescription. That's not...
No, and other things, obviously the Bryce Norton thing is the most famous one now. Prior to that, it was mostly things like banks and insurance companies that they were targeting, the likes of Barclays as well. Spraying actions, other spraying actions, and banner drops and things like that. So that is the correct analysis to make.
The same as being totally exonerated of those activities.
It is nevertheless exonerating those of us that oppose the ban, and it is pointing us very strongly in the direction of the right of people to take peaceful direct action protest. And so, yes, it has put the nuances in there, but the overall decision is that. And I think...
Elbit Systems as well. Yeah, the main, the most now famous case that did come in after the ban as well. Good point there about Elbit Systems in chat, Midi. Yeah.
The government trying to appeal against it won't do them any good, because what it will do is people will say, well, why are you trying to make people who undertake protest and direct action, and why are you arresting several thousand people for the great crime of holding a placard up in a town centre or a square, and you're actually...
And during the DOJ protests, the most antagonistic thing that you're likely to see is some dickhead like Danny Tomo or someone going about doing one of the live streams, getting in people's faces, posing as faux Christians with concern, asking why they're not there to protest about a Christian genocide in Sudan instead. And when you ask them if that's what they are in the same place to protest about, they say no. And they are the most antagonistic ones. They are the only ones who come into the realms of even antagonists, let alone violence. People are just sitting there with placards. They sit with placards. And at the most you'll hear quiet conversation. Usually other groups show up to support and you'll often hear chanting and megaphoning, so on and so forth, and singing as well from other groups that show up. But the sitters themselves, because bearing in mind this is a very long process as well, we're talking about something that can take hours. I believe, Moisha, when you were arrested, you were one of the last, and I recall you didn't get taken away until around 8 p.m. Most of these DOJ protests start around midday as well. So that's what it's actually like. That's the real scene that's down there. You can check out some of our previous content. We've covered this and done interviews as well with sitters, so do consider checking them out. But violence, no, whether it's PAL action or DOJ, to use the term violence, is very far-fetched. Very far-fetched.
Making an awful lot of people feel very angry about this, when what they're actually protesting about is the genocide in Gaza and Britain's complicity in that genocide through the supply of weapons and F-35 jets that help Israel to bomb Gaza.
I'm wondering what you think is going to happen with those who have already got charges under this legislation, whether you think that they will be quashed. I understand, I don't know if it's still the case, but one of your constituents is in prison for the vandalism on the military equipment at Bryce Norton?
Logically, they should at the very least be released on bail immediately, and clearly an application would need to be made to the court in that case of the Bryce Norton protesters, and I would imagine it will be. I don't know, I haven't spoken to any of them today.
Yeah, and again, we're talking about 2,000 people who've been arrested with Defend Our Juries as well. David Lammy's supposed to have this massive backlog. You know, he's sitting there in his office with this obvious solution to part of that backlog, get rid of these ridiculous cases. And he just has to reach his hand out and take it, turn around to Shabana Mahmood, say, you know, you've been found out, I've got this to deal with. They all need to be quashed. That's inevitably what's going to happen, but they're still going to waste more of the court's time and money and public money with this appeal that's only going to go one way. They should just forget it. They should just drop it all now.
Yet, but also those people that have been arrested and are pending court cases over displaying placards, surely to goodness all those cases should now be just dropped, and the police have now said that they will merely observe people holding placards up as a form of collecting evidence. They will no longer arrest people for holding those placards up, which seems to me to be a significant retreat by the police.
It is, and that's why we can now openly say that I oppose genocide, I support Palestine action. How do you like that? Much more sensible reaction to the whole thing from Jeremy Corbyn there. Alright, people. We're going to move on to hot seats now. Hopefully we're going to have that intro tag sorted next week. But for now, let's see how things are going in Gorton and Denton.
Oh, God!
Not great for Keith, not great for Labour. But who's going to win? That's the question. We've got Hannah Spencer representing the Green Party. We've got Matt Goodwin representing shitty reform. Seems to be a two-way race at the moment. Do have a few things to share with you. First up, a brief interview with Andy Burnham that came from the Canary. Despite Burnham personally being rejected a selection from the Labour National Executive Committee, he's gone out on the campaign trail, and the Canary, who are worth follow and subscription as well, of course, caught up with him and just asked him what he was doing and how he feels about the lack of selection. But the way he answers, and including what he said, is pretty telling, I think, as far as I'm concerned. So let's see what's happening.
It's good to see that you've turned out despite the fact that you were blocked from standing in the by-election. Can I ask why you think it's so important that you're still here?
I put myself forward originally because I think this by-election is quite a defining by-election. It's about values and about what kind of place this will be in the future. I feel passionately that the values of Labour have helped build Greater Manchester into what it is, and those are the values of partnership, people working together.
I'm sorry, but I don't buy that for one moment. You only put yourself, because you care so passionately about people of Gorton and Denton, and you knew how important this by-election was going to be. I don't think so. It was the first opportunity that arose for him to directly challenge Keir Starmer for the leader of the Labourship Party. That's clear as day now. We all know that was his motive, that was his remit, his reason wanting to get involved in the first place. And I think part of him campaigning is to try and cover that fact. It could have been anywhere else in Greater Manchester, and he would have gone because it was the first sniff he got at going up a notch. No, he got rejected. Had to turn tail.
What I think we're up against here is the politics of poison. The politics that tries to pit people against each other, communities against each other, and I just don't think you succeed on that basis. So for me, it's about defending everything we've built here in Greater Manchester.
In a lot of my reporting,
No. What do you make of that, chat? There's more of this interview to come, but just on that point, that specific point about his reasons for canvassing, it was a career move, and he didn't even mention that. Didn't even mention it.
the last week, I've actually met lots of people who said that you being blocked was the thing that would stop them voting for Labour now.
Oh yeah. Like you're saying, the chat there, Dylan. It's clear as day. Of course he wants to be Prime Minister. He stood for Labour leader in 2015, before he became the Mayor of Manchester, when he was still eligible to stand in such a contest. And that only goes to show you his career aspirations. Of course, if he wants to become the leader of the Labour Party, ergo, he would then want to go on to become Prime Minister of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And you can caption that, pause, that screenshot that I've left you with there on the screen. Just leave that hanging there for a moment. Caption this, people. Let's see how sordid the minds of our audience can be. Gonna have to get through the clip. You could do a noise. What noise is he making? What is he thinking? What's going on with this? Caption this. Freeze frame.
I think a lot of people are fed up with Keir Starmer's sort of authoritarian control of the party.
Well, I'm glad you've asked me that question, because I'd like to give a really direct answer through you to any people who are in that position. I'm here and I'm doing everything I can in this by-election campaign to send that message to those people who are thinking that way, to say, no, please vote Labour in this campaign.
They won't. And there's another good one. Caption that. I'm a dab hand at this, you know. It's just been put to you that that's one of the reasons people are turning away from Labour on the doorstep, as well as being labelled as nonce defenders. We've just had the whole Mandelson thing as well. We've had Morgan McSweeney sacking, a whole bunch of sackings to try and save Starmer's skin. And the phony show of appreciation that happened in one of the committee rooms, that ridiculous publicity stunt That's what people are thinking about. They're also looking at how low the wages are and how high essential goods are to buy. They're also looking at their energy bills. But mostly where Andy Burnham's concerned, that lack of selection just shows that they're voting for a top-down party.
Because, as I say, there's a huge amount at stake here. Everything we're building in Greater Manchester, Reform have never been anywhere near this place. They don't believe in what we're doing. They hate actually what this place stands for. I would ask anybody to not do that.
Edward texted me with a very interesting caption, and I appear to have accidentally provided a third caption competition now with this one. You can see. I should have screenshot those live on stream, shouldn't I? Good point in the chat. Ogden Bold, yeah, he blocked CSE inquiry and hid 800,000 crimes. Scribby, Labour is noncipated. Is that a word? If it's not, it is now. The gift that keeps on giving this.
To back Labour, because it is Reform versus Labour in this by-election, whatever the Greens might say.
And just to lastly clarify, because you mentioned the politics of poison again, would you say that includes the Greens, or is that aimed at Reform?
I'm not including the Greens in that, and I'm not here to say that. I choose my words carefully, but I'm aiming that directly.
You live in Gorton and Denson, whatever people do, I don't know. In the afternoon, knock on the door, someone goes to the door. It's Andy Burnham. Fuck me, the Mayor of Manchester. Fucking hell, it's Andy Burnham. What do you want? He says, I want you to vote Labour. We say, well, we're more likely to say, I would have voted for you, but I'm not going to vote for whoever else, and blah, blah, blah. All the other gripes with the Labour Party. That's what he's going to hear. Some of them might grit their teeth and pretend that they are still going to vote for Labour, but I don't think they will. You obviously can't take what someone says on the doorstep as 100% gospel. Some people just will tell them what they think to get rid of them. Some people are more genuous, but not as disingenuous as it's been brought up in the chat there, as Andy Burnham is. No. Don't think it's going to work.
At Reform UK, who this week said Jim Ratcliffe was right. I don't believe at all for a minute there's a majority of people who would agree with that.
They dragged, so that's the Canary there. Recommend going following. They've dragged Ed Miliband up as well recently. But I doubt that's going to cut it. Because it was again an excellent turnout in Gorton and Denton for volunteers of the Green Party. 400 people, I'm led to believe. I've been talking to one or two of them casually over the weekend. Zach Polanski actually made an appearance to address the increasing number of campaigners who are showing out. So let's see a clip from that, and then we're going to see him talking about Gorton and Denton. And what's the word I'm failing to find at the moment? At length in an interview.
In fact, we need to lower their bills. We need to protect the National Health Service. We need to rebuild our community services. And actually what the Prime Minister has just said in Europe is very close to the sensible position that I and the Green Party have been putting forward for months now. He's just doing it at the same time as making cheap political attacks. This desperate caretaker Prime Minister has got nothing left but those attacks. And meanwhile that he spends all of his time attacking us, we're spending our time today talking to voters, getting out on the doorstep and presenting a hopeful vision of what the Green Party will offer. Because we know this election, the lines could not be clearer. It's between the Green Party and Reform. Nigel Farage's candidate, who is a man who makes money by spewing hate and division on GB News, and our candidate, a local plumber who actually knows the community, who actually cares. When I talk about making hope normal again, that's not some abstract idea, it's right here in this field. It's people from the community.
It is, on a national level, not just in Gorton and Denton. It's a chance to reach out and take hope again. Unfortunately, at the ballot, people narrowly rejected that in 2017 and then got duped into voting Tory for many reasons which I won't go into in 2019. But this time around, the opportunity is going to be there again. It's going to be there on the ballot paper, on every single ballot paper in every single constituency in the UK. So the British public have a great opportunity, and we've just got to hope that enough of them take it, because we really, really have to stop reform, and it's becoming increasingly obvious that it's the Greens who are going to be there. We saw that other by-election result this week. There were just literally scores of votes between Reform, who won, and the Greens in second. Labour way back in fourth place. They're definitely going to come third in Gorton and Denton. So we're going to see that throughout the country. People have to forget Labour as any sort of contenders to reform, let alone what they've done while they've been in government. Let's hope that they get real, see sense, because this offers a much more hopeful future than the politics of hate and division that Farage and Matt Goodwin and Richard Tice, and now we're going to get into a little bit more later on as well, Rupert Law with his new party that he launched this week. These are the kind of people that we're going to have to stand up to, and Keir Starmer just doesn't have the grapes to do it.
And elsewhere, getting out there and speaking to people, saying it doesn't have to be this way.
It doesn't, and we have a choice. So let's hear Zach speaking at length in this interview now. And then his Sky News appearance as well, coming up, of course. A couple of bits to get through. Like I said, it's a busy old stream. Make sure you've hit thumbs up, people. Really do appreciate that.
Time to talk to the Greens now. I'm joined by their leader, Zach Polanski. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Keir Starmer said yesterday that if you gain power, the lamps will go out across Europe. And he was echoing the words of the former Foreign Secretary.
One sec. Sorry. We'll get on to that in a minute. It's this one.
By-election is really unique for several reasons. Most importantly, it's unique for the people of Gorton and Denton because they deserve representation. I think it's sometimes forgotten why this by-election happened. But it happened because of Labour and Andrew Gwynn and a resignation that would happen pretty much under a cloud of disgrace. That was bad enough in its own silo, but actually that's in the context of everything we've seen with Peter Mandelson and Jeffrey Epstein and a Labour government that is crumbling. And then we know that we need to lower bills, defend the National Health Service and rebuild our public services. And we're not the only party who is operating in this space where people are unhappy with the Conservative government and the Labour government. Nigel Farage's candidate is literally a man who works for a right-wing news channel who gets paid to spread hate and division. And in Hannah Spencer, we have a local plumber, someone who's actually from the community, who cares about the people in this community. And the reason why this is unique is if you wanted to write a political blockbuster that was about hate versus hope, that was about a movement that really cared about people and about community and determined to win, that is going against the multimillionaires and billionaires and the big money, you would write this race right here in Gorton and Denton. So I think it matters both for the people here and the residents, most importantly, but actually this will have ripples right across the country. And if we, for whatever reason, allowed Nigel Farage to get another Reform MP, it would be pretty grim in terms of what the Labour government would take away from that, what the media would take away from that, but even more grim for migrants in this country, for trans people in this country, for unemployed people in this country. But for Hannah Spencer to win, that would also send a very strong message, but a very different message. And suddenly the Labour government never again would be able to say you have to vote Labour to stop reform, because everyone would know that was always a lie. The Green Party are the alternative, and we can and we do and we will win. Well, Labour said that themselves. They said reform winning would be bad, but the Green Party winning would be existential. And the reason why I think they're right on that is because for far too long they have coasted by basically parroting the rhetoric of the right. Often it's saturated and diluted, although not always. So,
well, they should step aside then by their own admission. Of course, it would be way worse if Reform won the seat. And, Labour had done as a vehicle, as socialism certainly, as a vehicle for any kind of change. They should just quit.
Sometimes it's just straight up what Farage would say anyway. And the reason why this would be existential for them is because they would realise they could no longer get away with that. Both the Reform Party and the Labour Party have politicians who have taken donations from oil and gas companies, gambling companies, arms trade companies and private healthcare companies. And that means they work for them and not us. Yeah. And actually, Hannah Spencer winning in this election says, we are the many, they are the money, but actually what can win is people power.
And Farage even had the gall to say in an interview this week that he couldn't be bought. If you're talking about a sellout politician, Farage has got to be right up there with them. So, well said, Zach. That's very good. Let's get into the real meat and potatoes of the day, though. This interview on Sky News with Trevor Phillips, who's, of course, quite the douche himself. Looks like does a good job here from what I'm told. This is mostly a first-time reaction from me as well with this clip. See what's happening.
Time to talk to the Greens now. I'm joined by their leader, Zach Polanski. Morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Keir Starmer said yesterday that if you gain power, the lamps would go out across Europe. And he was echoing the words of the former Foreign Secretary, Edward Grey, on the eve of the First World War.
Yeah, so that's obviously clearly very dramatic and not worth bringing up in an interview on a mainstream channel on a Sunday morning. Is it, Trevor? Or perhaps it is. What a ridiculous thing to say.
14. And he then went on to say, Grey said, we shall not see them lit again in our lifetime. How do you respond?
I think people are pretty bored of Keir Starmer making cheap political smears at other parties. People's wages are stuck in 2008.
Can't even come up with anything
we
original
know rent's
either.
Going up, bills are going up. There's real problems both in this country and internationally. And the Green Party are offering solutions to that. And what I think Keir Starmer should be doing is actually focusing on the issues people face every single day, rather than making cheap attacks. In terms of the lights going up.
Defence against Russian aggression, for example, is...
Oh, that's a load of... I am not swallowing this. Oh, once he gets Ukraine, he's going to invade all of Europe. That's why we're putting defence spending up. That's why Keir Starmer has encouraged more defence spending in Europe and a closer coalition with Europe, as he describes it, on a war footing. It's is this what they're really about? You know, this thirst for war that they have. We're supposed to buy that and go along with it? No, I don't think so. And he's now trying to say that we're going to be... Are you trying to say that the United Kingdom is going to be directly at war with Russia by 2030, as Keir Starmer's trying to insinuate this week? It almost seems like Starmer's chomping at the bit to get that situation instead of try to avoid it, because if that were to hypothetically happen, we wouldn't have a fucking cat in hell's chance. Russia would roll over the United Kingdom. I don't know. It'd be like a hot knife through butter. Jesus Christ, this is insane. This is insane. This whole macro perspective that we're supposed to have now. This get ready for war attitude. This isn't what we want to lay out for ourselves and our future generations.
pretty important. First duty of a government is to protect its people, isn't it?
Take national security really seriously. It's the first job of a Prime Minister, and actually it's the first job of a party leader. But let's talk about this Labour government. They brought in Peter Mandelson, a friend of a convicted paedophile, who was leaking secrets. That's pretty bad for national security. I don't believe they're putting the money that they need to into cybersecurity, into pandemic resilience, into the climate crisis. These are all real issues of national security, as well as protecting this country. So again, I think the Prime Minister should focus on actually getting the job done rather than cheap attacks.
He is right, though, that you would not sign up to NATO's Article 5, that is to say, to take military action in defence of another NATO country if they were invaded.
Well, we've already signed up to that, but the very obvious thing to point out is that Donald Trump, our so-called ally, who is behaving increasingly dangerously and unpredictably, is threatening to annex Greenland. An attack on one is an attack on all, and it just feels Keir Starmer's speech yesterday, which, by the way, is not 100 miles away from what I've been saying for months now, which is we need a closer relationship with Europe. So it's quite bizarre to hear him.
Yeah, Edward, I was thinking more along the lines of the nuclear arsenal, of course, Russia being top of the tree there, and these hypersonic ones that they've got, as well as China, of course, who they would be allied with, is beyond ridiculous in comparison to... let's hope it doesn't get to that. Of course, let's hope it doesn't even start in the first place. Yeah, just clear up what I was referring to there. Thanks a lot for the flags and watermelons in the chat there. And yeah, Scribby, that's what Polanski should have said to Trevor Phillips here. Oh, by the way, you're friends with Mandelson as well, aren't you?
Repeating a lot of the things I've been saying and making an attack on me at the same time.
Yeah, you don't mind having a go at the Americans, but you wouldn't commit, would you, to defending a NATO country against aggression by Russia?
Oh, I absolutely would commit to that. If we're in NATO, as we are, then it's clear that we need to sign up to the articles. And Article 5 says an attack on one is an attack on all.
All right.
No, he did say if, and I know I did see a sort of snippet of that part earlier. A lot of people throwing that around, trying to say that they can't back Zach because he backs NATO. But he did say if they were in NATO, that's how things would go. Not going to get into the ins and outs of that. I don't really think it's worth it. I think, obviously, on the whole, what Zach Polanski's Green Party offers is a lot better, whether you want to talk about NATO or a one or two state solution in Palestine. But let's hear more about this and this topic that we're on at the moment.
In a press release today, you talk about a Big Brother Britain. I'm assuming that you're talking about George Orwell's Oppressive State rather than the telly programme. Isn't this going over the top of
Yeah.
that? I mean, this is not a country where people get thrown in jail for things.
Has Trevor Phillips lost the irony that the Big Brother show was named after the old... That is literally why... That is literally the analogy. And yes, that is the way that the government are acting as well. What do you mean, as opposed to the TV? It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
As they say, at least not very often.
Well, I think we're spiralling down that road. First of all, we saw 2,700 people put potentially in prison, some of them waiting trials, a lot of them for holding up signs saying, I oppose a genocide. We have seen a genocide happen in Israel now for the last couple of years.
No, that's not the signs that they're being arrested for. It is signs which say things like from the river to the sea, signs which imply elimination of the Israel of the...
That was no, Trevor. That wasn't included in the prescription legislation. That came later with the Met Police saying that they'd intervene and arrest people holding up those slogans as well. And again, it's something that shouldn't have happened, but that wasn't part of the original legislation, was it?
State of Israel, which are, at some sense, anti-Semitic and intimidating.
Well,
that's not what... Believe me, I've fucking held one, okay? And seen hundreds, thousands of people holding them. They all say the same thing. say, I oppose genocide, I support Palestine action. That is it. Give over, Trevor.
Jewish person that I don't find that anti-Semitic, and in fact Benjamin Netanyahu himself has used that phrase. I'm one of only 5 people in British history who have been Jewish and lead a political party, so anti-Semitism needs to be taken really seriously in the same way that Islamophobia or any form of racism or hate crime needs to be taken seriously.
Yeah, and as for the phrase from the river to the sea goes, historically, let's talk about, okay, from 1948, Israel were sort of designated by foreign countries, of course, a small area of land towards the northern part of Palestine, which did reach from the River Jordan to the Mediterranean Sea. That's where the phrase comes from. All of the other land that is now claimed by Israel to be theirs was annexed, was taken illegally, with many, many lives as well. So that is what the phrase means. It's an anti-annexation phrase. It's not any kind of anti-Semitic chant that Trevor Phillips is desperately... and bearing in mind he's talking to Jewish leader of the Labour Party, Zach Polanski here. It's quite pathetic from Trevor Phillips to try and make those false associations.
But criticism of the Israeli government, I would say, is a moral responsibility when we're seeing what they are doing to innocent people day in, day out. And our government is not just complicit in that, they are actively enabling it. So for people who are protesting against a genocide, I would say those people are actual patriots of this country who are saying, let's have a world where we make sure we're standing for human rights. It's not just Palestine action, though, by the way. We've seen authoritarianism over the Prime Minister wanting mandatory ID cards. We've seen the authoritarianism of scrapping jury trials. Pattern over pattern shows that Keir Starmer is deeply desperate caretaker Prime Minister who is clinging on to power by trying to crush dissent.
So you know all those 2,700 are innocent of any potential crime?
That's not true at all. So some of them have committed criminal damage. But as you said earlier on the show, criminal damage is already illegal. That's very different from it being a terrorist attack, and it's the conflation.
I've been convicted of criminal damage. Revelation, quelle surprise. No, that's no secret. But yeah, that's what you're talking about.
Which is dangerous, and the authoritarianism, which was behind the question you asked me.
This week you celebrated a High Court decision to block the prescription of Palestine action. You're okay with criminal damage as long as it's done in the pursuit of a cause that you're sympathetic with?
Well, I think the government have been completely shamed in court, and I'm proud that the entire Green MP group all voted against prescription of Palestine action. Where criminal damage is committed, then of course people should face charges for that. I don't believe any protester commits criminal damage and doesn't think they'll be arrested. That again is very different from terrorist activity.
The reason that I'm asking you about this is that you're talking about Britain as somehow near to being a police state, an oppressive state, in a world where, you know, we heard this...
So yeah, I mentioned mine was for spraying a bank, and it was obviously dropped immediately, but initially a lady tried to claim assault charges because there were some specks of the paint on the sleeve of her jacket, and that was immediately dismissed by the prosecutor, thankfully, as well, but just goes to show ludicrous overreaching. I've been party to that myself. Did eventually get convicted of criminal damage in the end, but that's something that I was prepared to do.
Morning, Alex Navalny is thrown into prison. He's poisoned by the Kremlin, we think, where elections are rigged in Africa and Latin America, where people in China can't worship freely. Middle East, a journalist gets chopped into pieces.
Let's just start having a go at the whole rest of the world.
In an embassy, and then you paint this country as somehow oppressive. I mean, honestly,
what? Oh my goodness, that's some whataboutery, isn't it? Coming from Trevor Phillips. No, of course he isn't going that far, but we do have a rigged and unfair system Here in the UK, it's a capitalist system that is rigged towards the rich, the already wealthy, and their continued wealth, as well as plunderance of our natural resources. I think that is more along the lines of what Zach Polanski is referring to. And what do? We get to vote within a first-past-the-post system every 5 years, or often less recently, but still within first-past-the-post. It's not a proper democracy. And then you look at who makes up the House of Lords and the House of Commons. No, get real. Get real.
Isn't that just completely wild?
No, I think what's wild is to see the road we're going onto, and there's the leader of a political party not to call it out. We say that Donald Trump...
We're not at that...
What's wild is people like this, and like Laura Kussenberg, who gets, what, 330 grand a year or something like that? I'm not even joking. To come up with this stuff. Don't know exactly what Trevor Phillips is on, but these are the kind of numbers that we're talking about. 6-figure salaries, at least. And I don't know what a researcher makes, but it is just ludicrous. And the irony being that he criticises Zach for saying that we've got a rigged system when he works for one of the media companies that tries to play a false narrative to the British public is part of that rigged system itself, you know. Has Rupert Murdoch decided who's going to be the next Prime Minister yet? You know, that old one. So they're party to it themselves in how unfair it is, and you've got to include, you know, media slop like this. It's beyond ironic.
You may say what that direction we're going into, but you're putting this country in the same bracket as those others I've just been talking about.
Well, you've just listed a whole list of human rights abuses, which are atrocious, including the horrific human rights abuses going on in Putin's Russia. I think it's right to condemn all of those things. I think it's also important, we heard the phrase earlier from Priti Patel, axis of authoritarianism. I think that was actually a good phrase, but you have to include the United States in that. We have ICE, who are essentially a paramilitary organisation on the streets, killing people in cold blood.
We haven't got ICE in this country.
Well, we have the UK, though, saying that Donald Trump is a reliable ally and we have a special relationship.
People say what they like. The point is we do not have people on the street whipping...
Well, we will if we get reform, and it's only Polanski here who can stop reform, because Farage has said very clearly and directly that they want the UK equivalent of ICE if he gets elected. And I believe that is one manifesto pledge they've put out, that you'll be able to bet your life on, perhaps. Sometimes literally. Who knows? But it will happen. And with regards to the actual ICE, yeah. All Keir Starmer's done is try and kiss Donald Trump's arse. Is this a sort of international relationship that we want?
Kids off the street into vans and shooting them. We just don't have it.
Well, we do have migration raids, and if we just heard Reform being interviewed, and we know they're going down that road too. The problem here is Labour, at every single opportunity, whenever Nigel Farage says jump, they say how high. You will never appease the right by doing that. They will just get more and more extreme. And in Reform, we see an extreme political party. You just had Zia Youssef on, who people will be disgusted to hear his comments on poverty. People up and down this country who can't pay the bills, whose bills are rising up, who can't feed the kids. To hear a politician, who we should say is a millionaire, sit in this chair and say there's only small pockets of poverty in this country. I wonder how people in Gorton and Denton will hear that.
Well, obviously we can't get into the by-election.
Well, it's the small pockets of wealth, but they vacuum up so much, of course, with the top few people having more wealth than 50% of the country. Those are the small pockets that we need to be thinking about. They're the small pockets that are the actual problem with this country, that create inequality.
Let me take you on to perhaps more familiar territory, or what we assume is more familiar territory. This week, Sky has been highlighting the scourge of fly tipping. As an environmental party, what would you do about that if you were in government?
Well, the first thing we need to do is make sure that people have accessible ways to make sure that they're disposing of their waste. This is a huge issue. It's often described as antisocial behaviour, and I know from when I go out canvassing, it's often disgusting and makes the whole area feel a lot less livable in, and there's also lots of evidence to show that that can also increase crime. What we can't do, though, is just point fingers and say it's antisocial behaviour if after decades of austerity, there's not suitable ways for people to dispose of waste. I think more than anything, it's making sure that the big polluters are also being taxed properly, so the way that things are disposed of is part of the full circular economy, so that's also being paid from by the producers.
So wouldn't a simpler answer be just a straightforward improvement of surveillance, for example? I mean, you talk about Big Brother, but sometimes it's worthwhile.
Well, I think you can get into an arms race of surveillance, and ultimately people will always try and find ways to avoid things, and unless we're going to surveil people 24/7 all the time, then I often think that has to be the last resort. I'd much rather look at behaviour change and get people to feel pride in their place, and I think you do that by investing in the community and making sure you have a community centre, that people know their neighbours, and sure, there can sometimes be a role for surveillance, but it shouldn't be the first place we go.
Yeah, they want the facial recognition cameras, of course, to use against protesters. For example, they're not going to use the technology to stop people fly tipping in back streets. The lack of opportunity for valid, ways of disposing of all of those things, mattresses, fucking washing machines, tumble dryers that pile up in so many back streets. Not just in Greater Manchester, but across the country as well. Yeah, that's the real solution.
Zach Polanski, thank you very much.
Thanks so much for having me.
So that's about it from Zach. I think he did a good job. You can always rely on Polanski to back himself well. I've never seen him caught out in an interview, really. It's always nicely played. Wasn't Trevor Phillips awful? Yeah. That can't be overstated. What are we saying in the chat? Yeah, Moisha, surveillance doesn't work. Idiosyncrasy as well. It moves the problem, it doesn't solve it. Good point, JK, with the reform links to Trump, of course. His first campaign chief, Steve Bannon, assisted in setting up Reform PLC UK, / Recycle Tories, with a little bit of help from his friend, I should say, Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah, Farage is in the files. Dylan, yeah, it's almost like Trevor Phillips wants reform to get elected. Up next, got a small clip. Like I said earlier, check out No Justice and Kevin Logan if you want some more in-depth analysis of Laura Cusson-Burcombe's. Those channels come highly recommended. Here's just a snippet though from the panel. Billy Bragg was on the panel. A British musician and human rights campaigner as well. But he's recently shifted his allegiance from Labour to the Greens, and he's going to explain why he did that in this little snippet. Let's see what's happening.
You're not now supporting Keir Starmer's Labour, you're actually backing the Greens in the upcoming by-election. Why?
Because I think the people at the by-election have the opportunity to send a message to Westminster. I think there have been a lot of votes, all the way back to the Scottish independence referendum, that have been against Westminster. And people are trying to send a message that they don't like the way politics is being done there. I think it's really interesting. This week, Andy Burnham spoke to the Resolution Foundation talking about his politics. What
Not,
he
of
wants
course,
to
that
do.
his politics are different to Keir Starmer's.
No,
in any way.
or mine. And in that case, he was talking about the way that, to get to a place where we have affordable housing, affordable energy, affordable transport, we need a complete reform of the constitutional situation, a new settlement between the British people and Westminster. And I don't think any of the major parties are offering anything like that. It's a lack of a vision about how we give voters a sense of agency and make them think that their vote actually matters. Because the majority of the people who vote in the by-election next week, if they haven't voted for the person who wins, their vote's going to go in the bin. It's almost pointless for them to do that. And we need to reform that.
But that is called democracy, isn't it? I think that
no, that's called first past the post. There's plenty of places where 95% of people vote count.
I'm going to agree with you. Give me a second. I think the by-election is a good opportunity for people to have a referendum on what they think of Keir Starmer and his first 18 months in.
Good points there from Billy Bragg. What do you make of that in the chat? Personally speaking, of course, I support replacing the House of Lords with a House of the People, with a Citizens' Assembly. There needs to be a better structured voting system overall, of course. Billy Bragg mentioning so-called wasted votes. There, with other proposals, PR, you've got top-up voting as well. Other things to consider. The very worst thing that you could have, it's more or less the system that we've got now. I think it's only the UK and Bulgaria that still use first past the post. I'm not knocking Bulgaria, of course, but just to illustrate, so many other countries have moved on where democracy is concerned. So this has been quite an extensive hot seat section this evening. Let's just finish off with a look at the latest polls. I say polls, this is actually the bookmakers' odds, which are probably worth considering more than a lot of the polls out there. What you can make out there, the Greens still clear favourites, 3 to 10 odds-on favourites. Reform at 10 to 3, with Labour now at 8 to 1, so that's almost 1 to 3 on. And roughly 3 to 1 against for Reform. Labour at 8 to 1 now, 8 to 1. And this time last week they were at 5 to 1. So those trends that we saw appear to be continuing. And if they do, well, it's going to be close. It's going to be close. What can we say? Fingers crossed for Hannah Spencer, of course, and the Greens. Keep updated with the latest Gorton and Denton through the week, of course, just 11 days to go. Hopefully we're going to catch up with some campaigners with some interviews through the week. Keep your eye out for those. Because I've got quite an interesting national poll to share with you now. And it was mentioned in chat earlier, of course, a new far-right party has been announced this week, led by Rupert Lowe, the Restore Party. More right-wing, far-right, immigration-based drivel, as you'd expect. However, it might have an unintended advantage, shall we say, in splitting the far-right vote. Let's take a look at this one. Now, what do you make of that? So, coming straight in with 10%, you can see in the darkest of the three shades of blue there. Rupert Lowe's Restore Party seeming to hinder reform, meaning that the Greens, with a 13.1% gain, would be within just 5 percentage points of reform in second, and Labour in third. Very interesting, very interesting. As for Rupert Lowe and the party itself, of course, total shite, just the usual bollocks that you'd expect. Perhaps even further right than reform. Don't know. But initially, all that he said is, even though you have to consider around 100,000 migrants came in to the country last year, he's proposed removing millions of people. He's been very vague and spurious about whom and how and to where he's going to remove millions of people from the country. But I think we all know the tone of that sort of language, the hostile environment, as it were, that we've seen before in the country. But in terms of electioneering, and this is a national poll, by the way, it could have some significance. So if you can consider that it's at least a three-way split there, you've got Reform, Tories, and now Restore. So it's Reform, Restore. How many different sort of iterations are the far-right parties going to come up with? What's the next one? Resolve. God. It's all very derivative, isn't it? I've been represented in blue as well, of course, a shade of blue. Of course, your party yetting to feature. Yetting? That's not a word. That's not a word. Yet to feature in a lot of the polls. Let's hope they can get things going. So, yeah, Resurrect, Revive. They'll be the next ones. Ogham the Bold with some good suggestions. Reanimate, Flow Snake. Remigration. Moisha, thoughts on tactical voting? What, nationally or where Gorton and Denton's concerned? Well, hypothetically, not a Gorton and Denton constituent, but it's not far from where this stream's coming to you from this evening. I generally like to hope that people can vote for whomever's closest to their personal principles, that is represented in the ballot, and I believe that that's what people should go for. I think once you start the labyrinthian thing of tactical voting, it can get somewhat out of hand. In the end, you can find yourself voting for someone who's quite far away from most of your major principles, but with the, whatever they call it, holding your nose and ticking the box thing can often lead to regrets. But yeah, I just think that people should vote for whichever representative closest matches their principles, whether it's one of the so-called legacy parties or not. But of course, all that's out the window now. Legacy parties. I mean, look at them there. It's a find out now poll as well, should point out. But it would be good news, yeah, Edward. Let them fight. Let them fight for the far-right votes. While the Green Party, hopefully your party as well, continue in the ascendancy, or get going in the ascendancy. But speaking of far-right twats, let's get some slight satisfaction from watching Farage get fact-checked in real time on Sky News the other day, of course. This concerning Jim Ratcliffe's comments about immigrants using the term colonisation. Said they were colonising the country. Of course, using bullshit statistics, which Farage is going to try and defend here. Essentially, he's trying to say that, apart from using the term colonisation, everything else that Ratcliffe said was legitimate, apparently. But no. Big bollocks as usual. Let's see what's happening.
Good evening. Sir Jim Ratcliffe has apologised today for remarks he made in an interview to Sky News yesterday, in which he said the UK had been colonised by immigrants. It sparked, as I'm sure you've seen, a backlash across both football and politics, including from the Prime Minister, who demanded an apology, which has, in part, been forthcoming. Later on, we'll hear from Reform leader Nigel Farage on why he thinks Sir Jim's analysis of the problems caused by mass immigration was correct, even if perhaps using that word colonised wasn't. But first, let's just remind...
Someone did a racism, so now we're going to go straight to Nigel Farage, as always, to try and... whether it is legitimately racist or not, we'll take his word for it. We'll go straight to Farage. As well, racism's concerned, he's obviously a world-level expert on the matter. It's always the same, isn't it? It's always the way. Oh, was that racist then? We'll have to ask Nigel Farage, because of course he's going to give us a clear and definitive answer, isn't he? Yeah, come on. And again, calling themselves respectable, reputable broadcasters. But to their credit, on this occasion, they do put the correct stats to him and make things awkward for him.
Of what Sir Jim told us. He was speaking to our economics and data editor, Ed Conway.
You can't have an economy with 9 million people on benefits and huge levels of immigrants coming in. I mean, the UK has been colonised. It's costing too much money. It will cause... It'll cause... Well, yeah.
The next time you come off the ring road at Junction 9 for the Trafford Centre or whatever, don't go to the Trafford Centre. But there is a Jim Ratcliffe roundabout, I believe, named after him, if you want to go around that and shout wanker or something like that. So that's the M60 Manchester Outer Ring Road, Junction 9.
The UK has been colonised by immigrants, really, isn't it?
Well, as mentioned, he backtracked a bit today, releasing the following statement. He said, "I am sorry that my choice of language has offended some people in the UK and Europe and caused concern. But it is important to raise the issue of controlled and well-managed immigration that supports economic growth." Sir Jim Ratcliffe continues. He said, "My intention was to stress that governments must manage migration alongside investment in skills, industry and jobs so that long-term prosperity is shared by everyone. It is critical that we maintain an open debate on the challenges facing the UK," he said. Well, there's been lots of reaction to Sir Jim Ratcliffe's remarks, including from the Chancellor. Here's what she had to say before his partial retraction.
What Jim Ratcliffe said was unacceptable. It was disgusting, frankly. Jim Ratcliffe can speak for himself.
All of you people have to stop what you're doing now. I've come to where you work. You stop and you look at me speaking. And that validates everything I'm saying. I always pay attention to the people in the background during these kind of like forced appearances at work, because you really like see the duress in some of the faces. They're probably document hours pay as well. You know, while they have to stand there and watch robotic Reeves.
But the comments that he made yesterday were unacceptable. Our country benefits hugely from its diversity. We see that in our businesses, we see that in our universities, we see that in our cultural life. And
you're not going to shout, stop the gangs, like you do in other TV appearances? No? Not this time? Okay, carry on.
We are richer because of the diversity of our country.
Someone who thinks Sir Jim Ratcliffe is right is Reform UK leader Nigel Farage. I spoke to him earlier. Was Jim Ratcliffe right to apologise for his comments?
No, he apologised for the use of one word.
Colonisation.
Yeah, he didn't apologise for his comments. So what did he say? He said 12 million people have come to the country in the last few years. Fact.
Well, he got his facts wrong, actually. He got the dates wrong, didn't he?
He meant 2000, he said 2020. But since...
No, actually, 1995. The population of the UK hasn't been that low since 1995. That's not something that you just randomly get mixed up. It was bollocks. He said it was 2020.
Since 2000, 12 million people is the population increase in Britain.
1995.
Over 85% of that is the direct impact of immigration. So that's a fact.
No. Wrong. The population has gone up by 2 million. Approximately 2 million since 2020, not 12. And not since 2000 either.
There are 9 million people living in Britain of working age on benefits of some kind, albeit some of them in work benefits, I will grant you.
So, what, you'll grant what? You'll grant that it's bollocks. So then it's not true, is it?
Most of them are in work benefits, actually.
Many of them are. No, as I said, I grant you.
The real statistics prove the opposite of that. Oh, yeah, because that has to be verified through Farage. I'll grant you that. What? Just the absolute fucking hubris of the guy. No, that just completely disproves your point. You can't say, oh, I'll grant you that, and then try and claim that it's the opposite. Oh, man.
And he said, given that state of affairs, we don't need mass migration into Britain. And then he goes on to say that it feels like parts of the
most of them are in work benefits. They're trying to make the false claim that migrants come to this country just to claim benefits, to be given a house that they don't get given, and also the house that they don't get given is in favour of our army veterans. That's another one of the classic tropes from Farage and the far right.
UK have been colonised. So let's work out what's non-controversial. What's non-controversial is an explosion in the population
it's not it's not an explosion in the population. Don't be so dramatic.
The financial compensation to make people's lives better. And I would argue access to the NHS, housing rents, etc., have been damaged by it. Now, the use of the word colonisation, that's what he's withdrawn.
Do you think that's offensive?
I think it's probably, in the dictionary definition, correct, but perhaps...
Fuck off. Just fuck off. You know, right at the start, he said the use of colonisation was wrong, but here is what trying to defend it. So he's obviously trying to make Jim Ratcliffe's comments not look ridiculously far right at the same time as trying to appeal to his own far right fan base. No, we're not being colonised by migrants. You know, not even mentioning the fact that we live on an island and we all historically got here somehow. Our ancestors did, one way or another, Nigel. But talk about here in 2026. No, there are no swarms, as David Cameron once famously put it. We're not being colonised. There isn't wave after wave coming. There's only so many people that you can fit on a small raft that people have been forced into. They're not coming by massive fucking cruise ships or anything. A lot of shite.
People aren't quite ready for it.
I mean, it has historical overtones, doesn't it?
It does.
And I want to ask you about the language, the rhetoric around that.
Yeah, we haven't actually been literally colonised since the Normans in 1066, which was a long time ago. So we have been without Anglo-Saxon England since then. and that includes our culture, our language, etc., which took a great diversion thenceforth. Not immediately, of course. There were rebellions across the country, including here in the north of England, and so on and so forth, but that's essentially when it started. As soon as Harold hit the floor on that day in battle in 1066. So fuck off, Nigel.
People using words like that, people referring to Enoch Powell's speeches, is that overshadowing having a considered debate on migration?
And that's the problem, that you go down a route where people shut up and say, right, we can't discuss this, it's all too difficult, whereas the issues that he raised with the numbers, with the economic cost, are all too real. All I would say is this.
But you think he did it in a clumsy way, getting his facts wrong?
It's just one word. Everything he said was right. One word can be used in a different context. However, very interesting, the last census.
It's like, the dictionary according to Farage. What does this word mean? We'll ask Nigel Farage. Was that a racist comment? We'll ask Nigel Farage. Might as well ask a magic fucking 8-ball.
There are 1 million people living in Britain who speak no English.
They say in the census they don't speak good English.
Your wife and your kids' language have English as their second language. Your wife and your kids.
No, that's
doesn't mean there's 1 million aren't speaking any English at all.
5 million don't speak good English. 1 million speak no English at all. They're the census facts that we got a couple of years ago. And if you
I don't know if you've ever seen some of the far-right troll comments on social media, Nigel, but a lot of those British born and bred fans of yours aren't particularly good at the English language, as far as I'm concerned. People who go out of their way to spell the word of with a V. These are the kinds of people that we're talking about.
you get say you and I went just a few miles east of here, we would see road signs, we would see London Underground signs, we would see bus stops with parallel foreign languages. Now that actually...
We already have that. We have that in Wales, of course, obviously. We have that in London because guess what? You want tourists to come here and spend, so much of their money. And do you think that a lot of them are going to get acquainted with the language immediately? No, they're not. So that's why we do that at airports and other places like that. This is ludicrous as well. I'll tell you something. This interview could be conducted in German, and I'll bet you Nigel Farage would still be able to reply. So he's a complete hypocrite where that's concerned. And bearing in, so few of the British population are even duolingual, let alone multilingual as well. And we're not expecting, every single person to be a polyglot or whatever. But it just goes to show the difference in culture in other countries. A lot of European countries, citizens speak English very well. A lot of them a lot better, again, than good old British born and bred citizens in this country. He loses the language argument every time, Farage, every time.
To most people, it's not acceptable.
Well, so Jim Ratcliffe...
And so here's the issue. Here quickly is the issue.
Yeah.
You don't really have much time to sort of, at an advanced level, learn a language when you're fleeing persecution in your country or when you're on a death-defying journey across a sea in a, dangerous raft or small boat, whatever it might be. Having given everything that you've got, carrying everything that you possess with you at the same time. But no, they didn't exactly have the opportunity to go and do an open university language course, Nigel. And it's not that they don't intend to learn the language when they get here anyway.
The immigration that we had kind of worked for decades. The numbers were manageable.
Britain needs immigration.
No.
Doesn't it? Do you think it does?
What, mass immigration?
No, immigration, generally.
Do you know what? When I was first elected to the European Parliament in 1999, the word immigration didn't appear once on my literature. It wasn't an issue because net migration was about 30,000 a year.
Yeah.
It's gone since then to 1 million a year. And that's the point.
But you admit that you started the bullshit about it. That's all I'm getting from that sentence. Yeah, when you were an MEP and all you did is complain about the European Union. And everybody, anyone with 2 cents said that would be an economic disaster. And here we are, Nigel.
Just come back to your point about foreign street signs and that kind of thing. So Jim Ratcliffe himself is an economic migrant, isn't he? He lives in Monaco. Should he speak French or Monegasque living there?
He would probably argue that he's a refugee from the British tax system, but that's a separate debate.
He's an economic migrant, isn't he?
I'll just make a bit of a joke and everyone will forget that he's a total hypocrite. Yeah, he didn't pay a single penny in tax last year, 2025, to Britain. Do you know who paid, 17 billion or so? Yeah, immigrants.
Monaco
thinks he can wash over it with I think it was... Fuck off.
He
does the same thing as well. Migrant, yes or no?
He's a tax migrant.
He's an economic migrant then, isn't he?
Yes, he is, but you know what? He's not claiming social security.
What, you think taxation isn't part of the economy, Nigel?
But he's
not claiming social security.
He's not paying taxes that could go on people's benefits.
Nobody's spending lots of money in Monaco employing people and spending money in the high street.
Well, he's actually, Nigel Farage, he's cut hundreds of jobs here in the UK, in Grangemouth. He wanted to build...
Do you know why?
Hang on a second. He wanted to build his Ineos Grenadier car in Wales. You know where it's built now? It's built in France. Yeah. And so how much has he contributed?
And I suspect that Grangemouth will close. The last major manufacturing plant in Scotland will close. It may well be that Ineos have no UK presence at all in a few years' time. And do you know why?
That's not a good thing.
Do you know why? Moronic energy policy put in place by both Conservative and Labour governments. And we need to be real about this. If we want people like Jim Ratcliffe...
Reform gets so much money from fossil fuel companies, it's ridiculous. That's the only reason he's doing this bit now. He knows nothing about environment, believe me. What a tosser.
Investing in Britain, employing thousands of people, we have to create the right conditions for them.
Do you want
no special favours, but the right conditions?
Do you want people like Jim Ratcliffe as reform supporters, as reform donors? Is he going to be a donor?
I don't know, but what I have asked him, I'll be honest with you, what I have asked him is to advise me on how we put together an industrial strategy for this country so that we can re-industrialise. We have witnessed the loss.
Wouldn't it be better if someone living here was helping you out with that?
Well, do you know what? He has been living here for most of his life. He's recently gone to Monaco. Do you know why? Because he fears...
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to pay tax. That's why most people go to Monaco. Give over.
And as has happened...
Only rich people go to Monaco. It's a tax haven. That's what it exists as in the first place.
To me, my private pension that I saved for is now being retrospectively taxed.
Oh, God, get all the small violins out, please. Let's all open them at once for poor multimillionaire Nigel Farage, who's now going to sit in front of a poverty-stricken UK audience and try and plead poverty.
People with assets...
Stick it up your balls.
Terrified of what this government may do to them. Now, look, is he still a major investor in Britain? Yes. Is he still a major employer in Britain? Yes. Does he care about Britain? Well, look at his role with Man U Football Club. But he's raising two big issues here.
Yeah.
One is the numbers that have come to Britain have been detrimental to our community. And two, what he's saying outside...
No. Migration contributes to the economy and to the country. Just get over it. It's a sociologically proven fact.
Side of this is that our energy policy is closing down British jobs and industry.
You brought up Man United.
No, it will transfer them from fossil fuel jobs to renewables. That's supposed to be part of it. I've actually campaigned on picket lines at fossil fuel companies with JSO. I'm not even joking here, people. There were a few funny looks when we showed up at first, shall we say. But no, we think that in the transition from fossil fuels to renewables, every single job should be protected. This isn't about throwing people's jobs under the bus because we need a livable future. Far from it. We're talking about how we can highlight transferable skills and how to re-employ all of those people within the renewable sector, not within the sector that's destroying the planet for private profit. The same private profit that funds his shithouse reform, plc.co.uk/recycle Tories.
United, of which he is a co-owner. Man United fans will tell you he nickel and dime there making cuts, whilst also paying millions to economic migrant Premier League footballers.
Have you seen Man U's results recently?
That's nothing to do with
Have
him.
you seen Man U's results recently?
Oh, God, that's how he's going to try and crawl out of that corner. Well, yeah, United haven't been doing as good as City, have they? But that is pathetic. That is pathetic.
Hang on.
Unbelievable.
I'm a Liverpool fan, so yes, of course I've seen it.
Well, they're on the turn.
Well, I think Michael Carrick probably has.
That's a shocker. Oh, yeah, that's a purebred Scouse accent you've got there. All right, whatever.
More to do with that than...
what he would argue...
However, the point remains the same. He's employing...
Right, tonight I've got Nigel fucking Farage on. He's going to talk about what a fucking twat he is.
Economic migrants who play for Manchester United.
And are they on benefits?
Are they paying taxes? I would assume.
Of course they are. Of course they are.
But the man who owns them isn't.
I'm sorry. This is ridiculous. To compare high-skilled migration or work permits...
So that's fine.
Limited...
I'm trying to understand...
It's always been fine.
Okay.
It's always been fine. What is not fine is an increase of the population of 12 million people. What is not fine...
Also, for the record, pretty much every Man United fan has come out and said that Jim Ratcliffe's a twat. There's been the odd one or two who've said, oh, yeah, well, that's what everybody's thinking. You know, fuck them anyway. But, yeah, the majority are absolutely appalled, let alone if you point out, if you removed migrants from the squad, just how skeleton thin it'd be. Fucking hell.
Is the impact that's had on the lives of ordinary folk and communities. That is what is not fine. What is not fine are areas of our cities being to local residents unrecognisable from what they are. That is what he's arguing.
I mean, that is a subjective point of view, because local residents may quite like that.
Well, if they want it turned into a foreign country, maybe they...
Well, they come in unrecognisable because of the decline, because of all the dereliction, I should say. That's what's actually happening, and it's the fault of the billionaires. It's not the migrants, but that is what people notice in Manchester. It's what capitalism has done to society, not what migration has done to society.
But that's what's happened.
On Jim Ratcliffe, you've had conversations with him.
Yeah.
You want to get his advice.
Yeah.
If he did donate, would you welcome that, given that he lives abroad?
Is he a British citizen? Is he a British employer? Is he a British investor? Has he paid...
He doesn't pay tax. He didn't pay any fucking tax.
Vast amounts of tax in this...
No, he hasn't. No, he hasn't. Zero. It's zero.
This country. Is he patriotic about
Because
Britain?
one of your biggest owners is Christopher Harborne, isn't he?
Yes.
He lives in Thailand.
So?
Yeah.
Well...
So... Oh, God. It's like he wouldn't know hypocrisy if it fell out of a tree and hit him on his stupid, toad-featured face.
People who aren't living here and paying taxes here, how much of a say should they have over what goes on here?
We are living, and actually what the Remainer mainstream media needs to get a handle on, we're living in a global economy. And a lot of our entrepreneurs travel around the world and work around the world.
Yeah.
And we welcome...
Gone from, we can leave the European Union and do everything fine independently by ourselves, to we live in a global economy pretty quickly. Haven't you? Fuck off. Get this fucking guy.
As we welcome foreign businessmen.
I can't actually remember how I voted in the referendum, so I don't know who you're labelling.
I don't believe that for a moment.
We know what you think, but I don't know who you're labelling.
And yeah, going on Sky News and saying that they were the Remainer media. I distinctly remember during the 2019, the run-up to the 2019 election, It appeared on. It was non-stop, 24/7 on screen. Sky News. The Brexit election. That is what they described it as. The Brexit election. Yeah. To me, why that pisses me off is it detracted away from, obviously, Corbyn's social policies. For example, trying to make this all about leaving the EU, which, unfortunately, Corbyn was set up to fail on, thanks to Keir Starmer. So yeah, they did put emphasis on the European Union, but no, I certainly wouldn't say that they were Remainers or open Remainers.
Listen, in talking to those billionaires, and maybe you're talking to the likes of patriotic millionaires, they would want more millionaires to stay here and pay their taxes.
Well,
you do.
Do you know what I want?
You're a millionaire yourself now, aren't you?
Do you know what I want?
Millionaire yourself now.
My personal finances are irrelevant. Do you know what I want myself?
I know what you want yourself. You want a kick in the fucking bollocks.
I want as many rich people as possible to come back to the UK to pay loads of tax here. Because if we force away all the rich, your average worker and your poorer person will have to pay more.
Final point. Net migration has fallen by 2/3 in the past couple of years, down to around about 200,000.
Do you know why?
Yeah.
Well, you.
Oh, do you know why? What? You've not been in government. Fucking hell. It's the same with the crime, isn't it? He'll always have a go at Sadiq Khan and da-da-da and the so-called no-go zones and whatever in London. That's a load of bollocks as well. Crime stats are down. And they're going to have you think it's the opposite and that they're the only solution because it's, of course, again, all the migrants coming doing up. Don't look at the rich people like me. I bank at Coots.
We'll say the Boris wave has passed. Labour would say it's something to do with them.
It's the exodus. Net migration is those that come in against those that leave. Those that come in, hang on, those that come in, and these days are generally quite low-skilled, and generally will be a net cost to the country in economic terms, not benefit. There are people coming in. The people leaving are the high taxpayers and the entrepreneurs. We now have an exodus.
They don't, and they really do jump through hoops not to pay their fair share of tax. That is all that billionaires and the large companies do. It's all that they will ever do. And all they ever want to do is deregulate, 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 more and more profit. That is it. That is it. Bottom line. You know, that line on the chart has to go up. That's all that they're concerned with. And if they come to this country, it's certainly not for the benefit of our citizens in mind. Oh, they're such, philanthropists. Yeah, let's set up, like Amazon or whatever, let's set up another mega warehouse in this country because we care so much about its people. No, it's pure profit driven, and tax evasion comes into that quite a lot. But where national economy is concerned, it's tax evasion from the billionaires that is where the real money is at, not people on benefits.
Of talent from our country, it's a real problem. So the net migration figures look lower because of the scale of the exodus.
But if net migration keeps going down and ends up being zero, you've got a bit of a problem then, because you haven't got as much of an argument, have you?
If net migration goes to zero...
Never had one in the first place.
When you pack up and go home, what happens?
It means the exodus of talent from this country has reached a level approaching catastrophe.
What the No. The exodus? What exodus of whom? What's that last part again? Sorry, that's just the end of the...
Not benefit. There are people coming in. The people leaving are the high taxpayers and the entrepreneurs. We now have an exodus of talent from our country.
Oh, he thinks... okay. He thinks billionaires leaving is what will create a net migration of zero. That is on balance. A lot of balls. Yeah, they can fuck off and we'll replace them with companies that do the same thing but want to pay the fair share of taxes and pay their employers more of a share of the profits as they're entitled to, being the ones who should rightfully own the means of production. Viva la revolution. That's enough of Farage for now, though. Get that odious toad off my screen. Isn't he awful? Yes, Jim Radcliffe too.
He's an asshole too, sir. Gun is made first class Philip asshole.
What did you make of that from Farage, Rick?
Pathetic!
Hard to disagree with that. Yes. They should all be locked up as well, the tax-avoiding millionaires. What's next? Let's see. Yeah, as we did earlier, let's go to something a bit more positive now. Again, someone talking a bit more sense on certain matters. This is Corbyn again. This time in an interview with a guy called Colin McHale, who's from an outlet called Scotia Media, I think it is. Just caught this one on social media the other day. I thought it was worth sharing with you as well. Let's refresh our palate after the sour taste of Farage with something a bit sweeter, shall we?
You're here to found your party in Scotland. In your speech this morning, you talked about a golden thread of socialist ideas that used to run through the Labour Party. Has that thread gone? Has it been cut?
I think it's been cut. That golden thread sustained the party for a very long time. Put it this way, I joined the Labour Party when I was 16. Because I saw it as a vehicle for bringing about change. I saw it as a vehicle that would bring about socialism, which I was learning about and trying to understand at that time. And have there been disappointments? Yes. There's the things I've disagreed with in the Labour Party? Absolutely yes. I mean, from my opposition to the Vietnam War and the Labour government's support for the American policy in Vietnam, right through to Iraq War and so on. But I always felt there was somewhere in the midst of it all at least a fundamental understanding that we had to have a society based on dealing with people's injuries.
Yeah, bearing in mind we were under a lot of pressure historically at the time from America to get involved with the Vietnam War, and ultimately didn't, of course. So it's good to know that, that just goes to show how long he's been in Parliament as well. He was first elected in 1983, but of course was campaigning long before that against Vietnam, as he's pointing out as well.
Justice and deal with people's needs. But we've now had New Labour, which we managed to turn the tide on New Labour. New Labour brought in market economics into local government, market economics into the health service, and an unbelievably ridiculous support for various US presidents and all the wars they got involved in. We won the leadership in 2015. We managed to produce 2 manifestos which would have radically changed for the better so much of people's lives across the whole country. Could they have gone further? Yes, and I'm sure they would have done had we carried on. But we didn't. We lost the 2019 election. But I have to say, to those that condemn me and everyone else for losing it, the 2017 and 2019 elections were the 2 highest votes Labour's got this century. And I have to say, I don't think they're going to be surpassed by the Labour vote at the next general election.
You're here to...
Yeah. Great point. Great point at the end in both of those. Starmer not even getting past 10 million as well, and Jeremy Corbyn, of course, seceding votes that Tony Blair got as well. I just wanted to share that snippet with you. Whilst your party trying to get going all across the country, including in Scotland. Right, and we're going to get on to Palestine in a moment. I just wanted to quickly share this one with you. This is someone else getting caught out live on air. This concerns the Epstein files. Someone was in a Fox News interview, claimed to never have met Epstein whatsoever, and then was presented with some pretty damning contrary evidence live on TV.
You weren't ever on Jeffrey Epstein's jet.
John Bernard Kairos, is that how you pronounce it? Whatever it is, however you pronounce it. That's the guy on the right there. Check this out, people. This is pretty embarrassing.
Were you?
No, I've never met Jeffrey Epstein. I've never been on his plane. I want to put these rumours to bed. I've never met Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know him. I don't want to be connected to this.
Well, these images have just been released, and it clearly shows you pictured with Jeffrey Epstein multiple times.
So we're on a beach together, in a house together.
What's going on there?
I've never seen those images before. This is the first time I'm seeing them.
It doesn't mean that they weren't taken, though, fella.
That I recall, I may have flown on his plane once, but he was just a financier, he was just a businessman, and we were just doing...
He may have flown on his... So it looks like he wasn't aware that there was a picture of him on a beach and in a house.
That I recall, I may have flown on his plane once, but he was just a financier, he was just a businessman.
No, did you... I'm here to put... Never, not once. I'm here to put this to bed. Like, finally. What the fuck? Oh, no, I might have been on, I'm constantly losing track of the amount of times I've been on various private jets, for example, like this guy has. I don't know about you. People have, oh, yeah, now you mention it, I might have been on the one there, but... certainly never put my arm around him and pose for a picture on a beach. Fucking hell.
Businessmen, and we were just doing business.
It was just business. Check, what's that? China Network? Sharing that one there? What a fucking dick. Can you believe these people? Well, whatever he's into, I bet that sent share prices a tumbling pretty quick. I'm going to have to end this interview immediately and call my accountant. Okay, people, let's dive into this story now about the British Museum removing Palestine from their historical exhibits. Quite shameful. This is after threats made by lawyers for Israel, who we've previously shared on the stream, claim to have nothing to do with Israel's Zionism, despite having the title Lawyers for Israel. They claim they're unbiased, honest. Just bring this article up for you now. And then following that, like I said earlier, we've got some great testimony from an Irish MP, as well as a bit of a compilation from Mehdi Hassan, having at Zionist Alan Dershowitz, which is quite satisfying to watch. Just fill you in with a few details about this. cowardly move from the British Museum first. Try and get my words out. Do make sure you hit thumbs up on chat, everybody. Super chats are still open if you're watching live, and super stickers. Super thanks if you watch back later on. And there's a buy me a coffee page in the description of the stream. So let's see what's happening in this article from Middle East Eye. Erasing history. The museums bow to pressure from pro-Israel groups to remove the term Palestine, and it's a move that scholars and activists say is part of a systematic attack on Palestinian cultural identity. Scroll further down. Following a letter from pro-Israel group UK Lawyers for Israel, the museum has removed the term from exhibits on ancient Egypt and the Phoenicians, saying the word was not meaningful as a historical geographical term in that context. Well, it is. I'll clearly demonstrate that shortly. But in its letter to the museum director, Nicholas Kalunya argued that using the term Palestine in the exhibits has the compounding effect of erasing the kingdoms of Israel and Judea. Well, because frankly they didn't exist. Reframing the origins of Israelites and Jewish people as erroneously stemming from Palestine. I would say it's they who have something of a distorted view of history. The group specifically object to labels in displays covering 1700 to 1500 BC that referred to the eastern Mediterranean coast as Palestine, as described in, and described the Hyksos people as being of Palestinian descent, because they were. This is ridiculous. Academics who spoke to Middle East Eye say ancient Palestine is a historically accurate term for the region in antiquity. I use the term Palestine frequently in my own research and will continue to do so, says Marshall Ward, a lecturer in classic studies at the UK's Open University. She added that claims the term is late coming or illegitimate is a lie aimed at the erasure of Palestinians and in support of Israel's ongoing genocide against them. So this displays a very clear pattern. Earlier in the month, it was reported that Encyclopaedia Britannica had amended several entries to Britannica Kids relating to Palestine, including the removal of the term from maps of the region following pressure from UK Lawyers for Israel. What a set of wankers. Giovanni Facina, Executive Director of the ELSC, said that Lawyers for Israel's targeting of the British Museum is not surprising and part of a very clear pattern that the group have followed over the last few years of pressurising public bodies with misleading legal arguments. Just finally, this quote here I think is worth mentioning. The rewriting of history has always played an important role in occupation and genocide. In Palestine itself, this takes the form of the colonisation and destruction of archaeological sites, but these acts of violence alone are not enough to manufacture the historical narrative required for genocide. Ward added that nothing that historians, museums and universities all function as accomplices to the political project that Israel is engaging in. Which is true. Let's take a look, people. So here you see the ancient Egyptians referred to Palestine as Palaset, the Assyrians as Palastu, Greeks as Palestine, and Romans as Palestina. Of course, very close to how modern derivatives are pronounced. Clear as day, and that goes back many thousands of years, people, even further back. That Bibles claim to be based in, shall we say. So that's the truth of it. This thing, you know, Israelites, Canaanites, it's pure fiction. Now let's see some quite moving testimony, actually. From an Irish MP by the name of, don't know the first name, MP Gould. That's G-O-U-L-D. It was got quite emotional in this speech about Palestine.
When you look at the photographs and the pictures and the videos that come from there, and you hear the screams of people screaming as the Israeli government burned men, women and children alive. They burned them alive. And the world stands by while 15,000 children are being slaughtered. 35,000 men and women and children. And it's unbelievable, the genocide that's happening. A child with no head, a child with no head, and the Israeli government say it's a mistake, a mistake. I hope that Benjamin Netanyahu burns in hell the same way them children and their families burned. I hope him and his generals and the far-right government in Israel, that when their God finally brings him to the resting place, that he deserves to burn in hell. Because what is happening now, not alone is it apartheid, not alone is it atrocity and a war crime, it's just horrific. It's just horrific what they're doing. Where is their soul? Where is the soul of the Israeli people that allows their government to do this to children? Where is their humanity? The Israeli people, the Jewish people, after everything the Jewish people have suffered down over the decades, that they would allow their government to do this to other human beings. Human beings. But in the eyes of Netanyahu and this far-right Israeli government, Palestinians are human beings. But today here, the Irish people say, we recognise Palestine. We recognise that they are human beings, just like every one of us. Shame on Israel. Shame on what they've done, and will never be forgotten.
Well said there. Good to see flags in the chat as well. Thanks for that, Doc. And watermelons. Awesome stuff. More awesome stuff from Mehdi Hassan as well. I'm just going to play through this very good compilation here of Mehdi Hassan really sticking it to Alan Dershowitz. So yeah, Get your popcorn and enjoy this one, people. I'm not certain if this is a recent clip or a compilation of older clips, but certainly worth watching. Nonetheless, I certainly enjoyed it. I'm going to share that one with you now.
Israelis have no agency, apparently, according to Alan Dershowitz. Everything is the fault of the Palestinians. So many falsehoods in there. There was no Palestinian state offered in 1967. That's when Israel began its illegal occupation of the West Bank and Gaza. And even if we buy this nonsense that Clinton and Barack offered... I didn't interrupt you when you were speaking. Can I say my point? You've said all your falsehoods. Now I'm going to debunk them. You said that Clinton and Barack offered a state. Not true. At Camp David, both sides turned down the deal. Shlomo Ben-Ami, who was the foreign minister, said, I wouldn't have taken that deal at Camp David, the Israeli foreign minister. Then Taba came along, and Taba fell apart because Barack went to the polls and lost the election. Ehud Barak lost the elections. He was a lame duck prime minister. Sharon came in. So you can rewrite history all you want. No one believes that's the case. But even if you were telling the truth, which you're not, let's talk about today. Benjamin Netanyahu brags that he's blocked a two-state solution. The guy who you volunteered to be a lawyer for in front of the International Criminal Court, wanted war crime suspect, has openly bragged that I blocked a two-state solution. His words, I blocked a two-state solution. So you can rewrite history all you want. The present day is proof that you're talking nonsense. This Israeli government, this far-right government, has no interest in peace with the Palestinians, only interested in ethnic cleansing. And the best part of listening to you speak about agency, everything you said could be said about Hamas and the Palestinians. The Palestinians would say Hamas is a result of Israelis not giving us our freedom. Hamas is a result of Israelis besieging and boycotting Gaza for decades on end. Hamas is a result of Israeli leadership coming and killing our leaders and imprisoning our leaders. So the same arguments you use to defend genocidal fascists in the Israeli government could be used to defend Hamas. I mean, I don't know what to respond to. So much was said and so much nonsense there was said about violence and killings by someone, as I say, who's volunteered to defend Netanyahu at the International Criminal Court, where he's been indicted with the former Israeli defense minister for war crimes.
I'm proud of that.
And crimes against humanity. Of course you're proud of it, because you don't value Palestinian life. Let's just deal with some things you said. Number one, you talked about deals and negotiations. Gershon Baskin, who is the only Israeli negotiator to have ever successfully negotiated with Hamas, keeps saying, he said it just the other day, go check his Twitter feed, that he has communication from Hamas saying, we have offered the Israeli government a full ceasefire. We will leave government. We will not govern Gaza. We will return all the hostages in return for a permanent ceasefire. Israel doesn't want a permanent ceasefire because Smotrich and others want 60 days and then they go back to the killing when the hostage is released. He's offered a permanent end to the war. Israel doesn't want a permanent end to the war. That's what Baskin is saying. Secondly, you talk about killing of kids.
I would like that.
You talk about killing of kids. I mean, the Israeli military does intentionally kill
children. Deliberate.
Let's read 972. Israeli publication interviewed 7 Israeli soldiers and officers, peers, who returned from Gaza. Just last week, in several cases, the soldier said Israeli troops deliberately targeted children.
Really
there was a boy
here,
who entered the zone. He didn't do anything. Other soldiers claimed to have seen him standing, talking to people. That's it.
And
they dropped a grenade from a drone. In another incident, soldiers tried to kill a child riding a bicycle.
And they get prosecuted
So
for
they
it.
have not been prosecuted. Alan, don't lie on television where people can fact you. None of them have been prosecuted.
Yes, they have been.
Which
I
soldier?
know they have been.
Which soldier was
Yes, they have
prosecuted
been.
for dropping a grenade on a child?
There are dozens
You're
of them
lying on national TV.
Dozens
Piers
have been
Morgan can come back on the next episode and tell everyone that you're not telling the truth.
Dozens of them have been prosecuted.
Not a single
for
Israeli
going
soldier has been
exceeding
prosecuted
orders.
for deliberately killing a Palestinian
That's
child. That is
false.
a lie. This is insane to suggest that Israel has accidentally killed 17,000 children. Anyone who says that should be laughed off television, whether they're a professor of law or not. 17,000 people were not killed accidentally. The children who were killed in a waterline were not killed accidentally. The children lining up 9 who were killed last Thursday for nutritional supplements, as UNICEF says, outrageously for UNICEF aid, were not killed accidentally. Children who were shot in the head by snipers were not killed accidentally. I have friends of mine, doctors, who have gone out to Gaza and have come back and said, we saw kids were brought to hospital with sniper shots, bullets to the head, to the chest. Multiple American doctors have said that. Farouz Sidwa, Mark Perlmutter, Irfan Galaria. Go Google it if people don't believe me. So it's nonsense. Israel is killing kids deliberately, has done so for the last 21, 22, whatever so months. You can't push this bullshit line anymore about people were hiding under hospitals.
Do you disagree?
We've seen it on tape, Piers.
Okay.
We've seen kids killed in cold blood on tape. You've seen it, I've seen it. No one forced Israel to bomb hospitals. No one forced Israel to sniper shoot children. No one forced Israel to kill women holding up white flags, as we saw on tape with our own lying eyes. No one forced Israel to do any of that, which is why Karim Khan, the chief prosecutor, which is why the ICC judges all said Netanyahu and Gallup need to face war crimes charges.
A corrupt prosecutor.
Theodore, hold on, just to be clear on this. I know this propaganda is coming from Theodore Myron, who is a former chair of the International Tribunal on Yugoslavia, a former Rwanda tribunal judge, former legal advisor to the Israeli Foreign Ministry, former Israeli ambassador. Theodore Myron, 94 years old, descendant of Holocaust survivors. He advised on that indictment and said, yes, Netanyahu should be indicted on the basis of all the evidence I've seen. He knows far more about war crimes than you do. There is a Penn State poll that shows 82% of Israeli Jews say they support ethnic cleansing in Gaza. 47% of them said they support killing every man, woman and child in every city that's taken back from Gaza, a la the Bible punishments of the Old Testament. So Israeli society is super pro the the war,
I
super
don't
pro
believe
getting
that
rid of
for 1
Palestinians from
second.
Israel. So unfortunately, we can't lay all this at Netanyahu's door and just say, it's all the fault of Netanyahu. If we got rid of Netanyahu, things would be fine. Actually, the Israeli opposition is super genocidal. The Israeli parliament is trying to get rid of the only leading Palestinian member right now. The Israeli public is
And what
getting
percentage of Hamas are supported by the Palestinian people?
Quite a lot right now, because they see them as resistance. I'm glad you read that.
Hold on. Hang on.
Hold on.
So in other words, you see the same problems on the other side?
I do see some problem. Let me make this point. Hold on, no, it's not, because you never let me finish the sentence. One side is the occupier.
Responding to what you said.
One side is the occupier, the other side is occupied. One side is the people fighting for their freedom, one side is the people denying them the freedom. But let me finish a point. It's very interesting that you mentioned about, different attitudes. All I've heard on this show since it began today is poor Israelis, think about the Israelis. Alan has said multiple times now, if your people were killed and if your women were raped, then you would respond like this. Well, the Palestinians would say the same, because that's what's happened to them.
Yeah, and if they want to make comparisons between the IDF and Hamas, then there's only one of those two who've offered to withdraw themselves during the negotiations, who've said that they'll lay down their arms, they'll disband, and that, of course, is Hamas, not the IDF, which has been turned down in previous negotiations, which Mehdi Hassan did an excellent job there in pointing out, as well as so many other fantastic things. Always worth listening to Mehdi Hassan. Could see some appreciation for that in the chat as well. So just move on now. We are all Palestinian now. Good point there, Graham. Yep. Viva Viva Palestina. And if you're not against the genocide that's happening, then you really should take a cold, hard look at yourself. Let's be honest. A good point there, Emma. Of course, that is what Zionism does, using religion falsely, of course, to try and excuse atrocities. But yeah, it's a mask. It's a very thin veil, especially where Zionism is concerned. Talk of promised lands, etc., as an excuse for the worst war crimes imaginable. It's just fantastical nonsense. But the fight goes on, of course. Keep you up to speed with any more developments in Palestine. Been on for quite a while now. So I will have to start bringing proceedings to a close shortly, but do stay put, everybody, as always. We'll be raiding into some other excellent content. A fan reminder, please do hit supportive buttons. Open up some of our recent content, hit thumbs up, you might see the hype button there. If you do, this is if you're watching on mobile or tablet, by the way, depending on which country. But please do consider using some of your hype points to support the channel as well. That's a fairly new feature on YouTube. One to look out for. And you might also want to consider joining us with a membership. It's just 99 pence. A few perks for you to enjoy. Hit the join button if you want to find out more. Here's a list of most of the current members as we monumentally passed 200 on tonight's stream. Thanks a lot for that. That's been incredible to do that live on a stream as well. And thanks to everybody on the list for all of your support. We also have super chat, super stickers, super thanks, buy me a coffee page as well. Thanks to everybody who's contributed via the many methods that we have available. Doc Davies, I don't think you can get the hype button on desktop or laptop or PC, whatever. But if you have the app on YouTube and you're signed into your account, if you're watching on your phone or tablet, then you might see that there. It should just appear underneath the like button as you press the like button. I also like that the only way you can find out you got it is if you press the like button, which I've now said about 3 times. Yes, so that's just about the stall closed for the final time on stream. Thank you very much, everybody. There's 195 on screen, but now on 202. Towards that goal of 250. Could we get towards 250 this time on the next Sunday live stream? We'll see. I do have a raid set up. We're going to be going into Kevin Logan. No, that's the wrong one. We're going to be going into Kevin Logan, who I believe will be streaming with No Justice, going over Laura Kussenberg. As I said earlier, that's definitely worth checking out, so I'm going to join you there. Briefly, sorry, that was Keith's catchphrase, it's not the Fondue Lounge. But we're good to go for the Fondue Lounge. I'll say a final thank you to Harvey Ranger and the Supersonics for the background jazz this evening. So let's dive in for a second portion of Fondue as we say our goodbyes. Yes, do join me for the Brews at 10 live streams as we get through next week. As far as things go on this stream, that will be it for this Sunday, this Socialist Sunday. All that remains is for me to thank you for joining us. Hope you have a great week. Power to the people, free Palestine, Lebanon, Sudan and Yemen, and all of the Filton 24. Don't let the bastards grind you down. My left, I'll be seeing you soon. Good night.
Socialists.
Oh my God.
It's what Hitler and Goering did, and it is textbook. And if you think the next time it happens, we're gonna recognize it because they're wearing scary uniforms, you're out of your damn